Imagine pulling apart a soft, warm loaf of fresh sourdough bread. As you break through the crust, you notice little holes and empty pockets inside the bread. The outside of the loaf is not damaged. No mice or bugs have burrowed into it. So, what could cause these holes inside a loaf of bread? It turns out that a single-celled organism called yeast creates those holes. What is yeast? Yeast is a type of fungus that is often found on plant leaves, flowers, and fruits. It can also be found in soil and in the intestines of some animals. Yeast is related to other types of multicellular fungi like mushrooms. However, yeast is a microscopic, egg-shaped, single-celled organism. Like human cells, yeast cells contain a nucleus and are more complex than most bacteria. Also, like humans, yeast must digest food in order to get the energy they need to grow. What does yeast eat? If you have a sweet tooth, like me, you have something in common with yeast. Yeast likes to eat all kinds of sugars, like those found in honey, maple syrup, fruit, cane sugar, and baking flour. Yeast cells digest sugar through a process called fermentation, which produces carbon dioxide. When making bread, yeast in the dough eats the sugars in the flour. As it digests the flour, the yeast makes carbon dioxide. This gas expands but remains trapped inside the stretchy dough. The carbon dioxide forms little bubbles, and when the dough rises high, which then make the dough rise higher. The dough hardens as it bakes, and the bubbles burst, leaving behind empty pockets or holes throughout the loaf. Although the lifespan of yeast cells varies greatly depending on their environment, on the average, they live for 1 week and double every 100 minutes. So think about these questions. What do you notice about this organism that's similar or different from the other organisms and cells we've seen? How does this organism's structure and function relate to where it lives? And why do you think it lives where it does? Do they relate to our healing story about our guy's foot? And if so, how?